Hello everyone, welcome to another review on the channel. This time it will be for heavyrain. This is more of a retrospective review. In the past I played Detroit Become Human and when it came to PC. So recently I thought I would give heavyrain a chance since it's widely praised and I actually really liked Detroit Become Human. This will be a shorter video since there isn't really much to speak about from the story. This is very much almost a movie, like Telltale games some sort of way, so it's a hard one to review. Additionally, on these retrospective reviews, I also want to ask, did the game pass the test of time? Is it still good after so many years? Or has it aged poorly? Maybe it's better now than reviews made you believe at launch in the past. I'll try to answer those questions. I know that on PS3, heavyrain had a Metacritic score of 87, if I'm not mistaken. And if I would have, like, spoiler alert, if I would have to say right now, I would say that it certainly fits that score, still nowadays. Overall, I clocked in my heavyrain playthrough at 19 hours, got all the achievements and saw every single ending in the game. The mystery embedded within the core of the story is very good and strong. And I have to say I was very impressed with the storytelling here, but at the time it can get pretty weird, I have to say, mostly due to some wonky animations. But let's check how heavyrain did across the board, shall we? The most important part of this game, if this section fails, then the game fails. It's a story. It's a big gamble, and this genre is pretty unforgiving if you don't have a strong story to back your game. I think the Steam page describes the game story pretty well, and it was what pushed me at first to check this game. It's very intriguing. What it says is, experience a gripping but psychological thriller filled with innumerable twists and turns, spanning 4 days of mystery and suspense. The hunt is on for a murderer known only as the Origami Killer. Named after his macabre calling card of leaving behind folded paper shapes at crime scenes, 4 characters, each following their own leads and with their own motives, must take part in a desperate attempt to prevent the killer from claiming a new victim. During the game you'll be controlling 4 characters, as that summary said: Ethan Mars, which is a desperate father trying to save his son from the Origami Killer; Madison Page, a journalist investigating the killings and helping Ethan Mars; Scott Shelby, a private investigator hired by the families of the Origami Killer's victims; and finally Norma Jaden, an FBI detective dealing with addiction and desperate to find the killer. The story gripped me from the beginning immediately. Immediately you get a sense of urgency in finding the killer, and for most of the game it seems he is unreachable. There is no clues, he is very thorough in staying hidden. The game tries multiple times to point you to 1 or 2 suspects, and although the logic given is very sound, something is always off, like there is more to the story than that. And then the game opens up and it's an amazing finale full of twists, turns and revelations. This is probably one of the best mystery and detective stories I have ever played. David Cage is pretty hit or miss in his games, and although I enjoy Detroit Become Human, this one is much more impactful and also why it's revered as a cult classic in adventure games. I don't think there is much more to say. From start to finish, the game tells a fantastic and thrilling story that never lets go of the gas pedal and is an absolute masterpiece in that regard. Gameplay and animations. Now, I am including animations as a section because this reminds me a bit of Alienware, but it's really bad. Facial animations are all over the place, and sometimes it will make cutscenes and tense moments feel very awkward, as a character is opening their mouth so wide that it fits almost their whole face. It's weird, and this is happening whilst they are speaking or reacting to someone speaking. It kills a bit the immersion, and it also kills any build-up tension in the moment. I don't know what they were thinking here, it's a bit weird. You probably have seen the Sean and Jason memes all over the internet. It comes from these I was just talking about. There are very weird moments in the game, and not just on the animation side but also on voice acting and line delivery. Gameplay wise I'll be short, but if you played the David Cage game or a Telltale game before, you know what to expect. This is full of QTEs or quick time events. They aren't intuitive at all and feel super clunky, at least on mouse and keyboard. Especially on the hardest difficulty, as timing plays a key role, and not being able to correctly press a key fast could mean a death or disaster in some chapters of the game. It's very poorly implemented in my opinion, but I managed to get used to it and make it work after a few hours. Bear in mind it could be much more difficult to you, so be aware of this. And I think that's really all I wanted to mention on this section. Soundtrack and atmosphere. Touching very shortly on the soundtrack and atmosphere section, and I'll both combo each other into making a finely tuned symphony for the game that increases immersion tenfold. Overall, I felt like the soundtrack was superbly chosen and fits every scene it plays. I liked most of the melancholic themes that express well the sadness and despair that is going on through Ethan Marsh's head, and it helps create this atmosphere of time urgency, of some sort of sadness and dread. Lastly, I do have to mention the sound effects, especially the heavy rain, as the game is named for. It feels really oppressive, bleak and somber. The sun rarely shows up in this game, and it helps set the tone for the rest of the story pretty well. It's also inherently linked to the game's story and how the killer operates, so it's pretty neat as a whole. Final thoughts, and to answer this new type of video of the retrospective review, has it aged well? This is the question I wanted to answer, and it's pretty simple. Honestly, this is an adventure QTE game, so age factor plays a lesser role as if this was an action RPG or a first-person shooter, for example. Obviously, I dislike the clunkiness of the QTEs, but we still see them nowadays in this type of games. Detroit Become Human used the very same, so... Graphics-wise is a bit dated, but still very reasonable for 2023, so overall I would say Heavy Rain has aged well, and it's still worth 1 or 2 playthroughs to see different endings and different choices that you can make. I would recommend it at the price it's going for right now, especially with the replay value you can get by, as I was saying, making different choices and seeing how it would affect an ending and so on and so forth. I think that's all I want to say for Heavy Rain. That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this one. A bit smaller than the usual review videos, but then again the genre of the game doesn't really help much in that, as it lives or dies on its story. Apart from that, I expect a review video in the upcoming weeks for Showgunners, a turn-based RPG that released some weeks ago, and Miasma Chronicles, which is by the devs of the Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden, which was an excellent turn-based RPG that came out a few years ago. Have a good one, guys, and see you on the next one. Bye.